Hey everyone, welcome to Call Me Crazy. Today we have on Trevor Newberry, who is a consultant and product manager. He's working on a new project that we're really excited to talk about called AppThink, which he's co-founded to help first-time and non-technical founders create and bring to life their software products. So Trevor, welcome to the show. We're really excited to hear more about your new adventure.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys.
So how did you get into kind of the product management into kind of the app, I guess? Like we can hear your full
Yeah.
story.
Well, first thing, there's no app. This is actually
Okay.
going to be an online learning resource that we're creating. But the journey to product work has been kind of winding and long. So I actually have a background, if you want to go way far back,
Yeah, let's
my
do it.
degree is in political philosophy. So
Oh,
deep thinker, spent a lot of time reading a lot of dead guys' books and writing papers, right? Transitioned, I graduated right into the Great Recession. So no jobs, nothing out there. It was December 2007. It was just a trash fire for jobs. So I did what everyone does when that happens. When you have a hard time finding a job, is I started bartending and waiting tables, and actually ended up working in hospitality for 10 years. So
oh
ended
wow.
up managing restaurants, running restaurants, started and ran a couple of my own businesses doing catering and then also consulting for, I would help people do things like hiring and training for kitchen staff and writing menus. But the real big picture of it is that I spent all that time learning in sort of a meta way a lot less about food and beverage and a lot more about running a business.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most difficult industries to be successful when running a business. It's just the margins are super, super thin. Staffing, training, all of the HR issues are 100 times harder than they are in a lot of other industries. It can be really, really hard to retain staff, to find them, to have reliable staff. It's just a tough one. So
Sure.
I learned a ton about running a business. So what happened was we had a fire at the place that I was at in 2017.
Oh shit.
We were, yeah, no, we were closed for 4 months, and a very good friend of mine, I was just like looking for things to do. I was really lucky that the owner of the place was paying his staff, even while we were closed. So I had a paycheck and nothing to do. And so a friend of mine said, you know everything about this business. You should try your hand at consulting. So I did. Had a buddy that helped me set up an LLC. Did it really, really fast. Newberry Consulting Services, very creatively named.
Of course.
Um,
That's how the great
yeah,
ones start. Yeah.
yeah. So I started that and was off to the races. And frankly, it was a very organic process. I worked with food and beverage hospitality companies for a while, but I realized that really there's not a lot of well, it's not a really good fit for professional services unless you're going to large companies that own
Mhm.
multiple locations. And my passion was always for small, locally owned places, helping them get a leg up, helping them improve their operations. So I was really lucky that I had some friends that owned and operated software development shops, and I had some connections with a couple of accelerators here in the Birmingham area. Um, so I was paired as a mentor and was able to get to know some of the people that were in software or building software products, and fell in love with it. This was probably early to mid 2017. Went through the process of teaching myself the project management and product management principles over the last couple of years and have pivoted my business entirely towards working with software products, working
Hmm.
specifically with non-technical and first-time founders. And what that means, that's kind of jargony speak, but basically what that means, if you don't know how to code and you're trying to build an app or trying to build a piece of software, you're a non-technical founder. And if you've never done it before, you're a first-time founder. So yeah.
Now with your platform, are you helping them assist like in actual building? Because I know now there's a lot of software platforms and you
Yeah.
can build apps without knowing any code. Like I've
Mhm.
built a few apps on I think it's Glide app where you can
Yep.
just build it through Excel sheets. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh wow, this is great. I'm terrible at
Yeah.
Excel, but I figured it out and it was
You're
kind of
better at that
fun.
than code, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
much better. Yeah. So like
So
put
we
this here,
don't
put that there.
we don't do the building. Here's the thing, and this is sort of an overarching philosophy. My co-founder is a very good friend of mine, and he's actually the director of product for a really successful. I don't even know if you call them a startup anymore. They've launched out of the startup phase. They've been really successful, and they work in the healthcare space here in the Birmingham area. So Dave, my co-founder, and I both believe that, the tools that you use to build your software, whether you're hard coding it, you're hiring a development shop, or you're hiring a freelance developer, or you're using something, like a no code or low code tool,
Mhm.
It doesn't really matter what you use to build it. The principles for getting software products built and off the ground are the same across the board. So what we
Sure.
started to realize was there was a lot of mistakes that people were making because they lacked sort of a basic understanding of how to come up with your concept, how to test your concept, how to find a market, how to validate your market exists. All of these very early, sort of counterintuitive steps that people need to take to get a product like this off the ground. And so, what we're building with AppThink is a platform. It's going to be very much taking our own medicine, doing an MVP, delivering things as manually as possible at first, just to teach people how to say, if you want to go use a no code tool, great. If you want to hire a development shop, awesome too. We want to teach you the principles that you need to apply to whatever process you choose to get this off the ground.
And is this going to be more, because it feels like an accelerator to me slightly, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of like we'll get in here, see what you can do, and we'll get you a product that we
Yeah.
can go kind of sell and market.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, let's call it the anti-accelerator. And the reason I say that is because accelerators have an air of exclusivity to them. They have an air of sort of elitism to them, right? There's, usually some kind of application process and a pitch process. And inevitably, even the big ones only have, 50, 60 people that'll go through them, right? Like not that many. There's a lot more people than that are trying to start their businesses, and maybe they don't have the time to get into an accelerator because typically they're pretty they're pretty time intensive.
Yeah.
The other thing is a lot of them have an investment arm, which is cool, but that investment arm a lot of times will be an equity based investment arm. So if you don't want to give up a good chunk of your company at the earliest stage, that's not a great fit for you. So when I say the anti-accelerator, yes, we're actually trying to teach a lot of the same principles, but this is something that we're trying to do affordably, something that people can pay for, even if they're just like, I just kind of have a fun idea, right? We're going to price this in a way that doesn't you don't have to be on the glide path to the next Uber. You can be, I want to build an app that's going to help with my neighborhood community, right? We want to price this and deliver it in that way. There's not going to be a barrier to entry. This first product we're calling Foundations, it will actually sort of be a filter. So some of these concepts that are just they really don't have legs. They don't have a lot of the validating metrics that they need to proceed. It might end up costing them $100 or $200 or maybe even up to $300 or $400, but that'll be done, right? They can go through that and they can know, hey, look, instead of spending $50,000 to have somebody build an MVP for me, I just spent $250, $300. And I got that answer. I failed before I spent all the money, right?
And that definitely helps for sure.
Yeah.
And so with the anti-accelerator, with your AppThink, how do you make it scalable to continue the growth? Because right now, I mean, with normal accelerators, we went through one for our company, Dope Dog, and it was, I guess, a little different. We also paid to get into. We did New Chip Accelerator, which is online based. They were based in Austin, but we had like a virtual cohort.
And we like that we paid, so we didn't have to do equity. So that was their kind of shtick. Like you can, be involved in this and get what you want out of it.
What they did, I guess, to accelerate their growth as a accelerator, because they want to continue growing too. They had like online classes, weekly meetings, but it's tough, I guess, because it's you really have to structure it right to have everybody get the most out of it. And I don't know if we got we got a lot out of ours online, but I definitely think there's a way of doing it to make it still feel like, you're involved with everything, right? Like, yeah.
And we're really sensitive to that. This idea was born out of a lot of my work as a consultant. So I'm doing a lot of product work myself. And what I realized was to be effective, I had to be super, super involved with all my clients, which really limited my ability to grow. I mean, I can typically work at a normal level with 3 or 4 people at a time. That's it. Right. So, I mean, you do the math. To have a successful business is profitable and pay myself well, I got to charge a lot of money, right? If I'm only going to have 3 or 4 clients at a time, which is not, again, that's it's kind of an undemocratic barrier to a lot of people that need some of the help and some of the coaching and tools that I bring. So what we're doing is a lot like what you described, except each cohort that's going to go through Foundations, we're actually hybridizing and doing it as easy to understand and easy to use as possible. We're not going to put it through like a teachable platform or anything like this. We're literally going to send you an email with a link to a password protected video. Just type in the password, watch the video. Here's a reading list. Here's our content, our written content, and then we're going to have for each day of the foundations course, we're going to have a live Zoom meeting where people get on. We're going to go through some content. We'll take some Q&A, but then we're also building a community platform, and we believe we're going to do that in Discord. So we're going to go on there and just intermittently throughout the, I think it's going to be about 2 weeks or so for this foundations product. I go on there, answer questions, but also hop on and do like live video stuff where we're answering questions in real times, because we really did want to be sensitive to the fact that there's a couple of underlying things that we have to admit up front, right, to make this successful, is that one-to-one contact is essential, right? It's really, really hard to just like vomit forth this information and then people get it, right?
Sure.
That just is what it is. So we have to be there, and we're aware of that. The second thing is, and the reason this is 2 weeks, right? Because we've got people in town that are doing similar things, and you described one that might have been like 4 months long or 3 months long or whatever, right?
Months, yeah. A lot of work.
And like you kind of indicated, like maybe you didn't feel like you got quite as much out of it as you wanted to because you were doing a lot of work with the course. Practice is the only way to learn this stuff. I can teach you these concepts in 2 weeks, but what we want to do is provide you with the framework that you need to go out and actually practice these things. You don't need to be in class with us for more than a couple of weeks, but we want you to have access to us in the long term. So this community resource will be a long-term, like a lifetime access, so that you can go out and say, I'm going to conduct problem interviews with my target audience. Maybe it's 2 months down the line that before you get to it, right? Because you may have a full-time job. It may be a nice weekends thing. But then you can jump on and say, hey, I did my first problem interview. I know it's been 2 months. Sorry about that. But I ran into this problem, and I can jump on there, or Dave can jump on there and say, hey, awesome, great work. Here's my thoughts on that. And I can actually come in and sort of help you as you're going along. And it doesn't have to be within the scope of those 2 weeks.
And are all these going to be pre-revenue companies or post-revenue, or how are they?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, no. That's a really good question. I mean, ideally for foundations, it's going to be pre-revenue, but there's another use case for it as well. So if you have a company, you're already in the market, you're making money, but say you want an offshoot, right? Or you want to add a new feature that's going to be expensive, right? Features are products, right?
Sure.
It's not just features are also products. So you can easily, if you did this kind of like the scrappy way without really any sort of education behind it, and you got lucky, right? And you've got customers, and now you're like, okay, I need to do this new feature. It's going to cost me, $20,000, but I want to do this right this time. I don't want to roll the dice on it. Foundations would be a great fit because you could use that for that new feature, but you could also turn around and retrofit that. You could go back to your original product and go back and do some more validating steps to make sure that you're still on the right path with that.
You mentioned principles earlier as far as when you're going to launch a product. Was there like a common kind of roadblock or issue that you were seeing while you were consulting that led you to create this program and make it different than just like developing the software? Like, what are those principles that you think that people need to actually successfully launch a product?
Yeah. So the first principle is when you have an idea, when you have it, like you've got a big idea and you think, I want to build a mobile app for this, right? This is the next big Uber, right? The first thing people usually want to do is go talk to a developer, whether it's a freelancer or a dev shop or somebody like that, right? Stop. The first principle is the last thing you need to do is build something, right? The first thing that we want to do is what we call validating steps. And a lot of foundations is focused on that. I use these examples a lot. So if you'll indulge me.
Yeah, go for it.
If you are building a house, or if you're trying to build, create a new sneaker, or, I'm drinking coffee out of this Yeti mug, right?
Love Yeti.
We've done these things before, right? There are variations on homes. There are variations on sneakers. There are variations on travel mugs, right? But we know how to do this. We have a really solid understanding of the supply chain, a foundation, slab or basement. It's a foundation. We've done it 100 different times, right? The roadmap for these products is pretty well established. What's different about software is that in many cases, you're building something that maybe a part of it is common, but if you're actually doing something new, there's no roadmap for it. you don't know if there's a market for it. You don't know if there's a customer that actually feels the problem you want to solve, or feels it strong enough that they actually want to pay you money to fix it, right? Because there's two
Mhm.
things. It's good that someone has that problem, but they also have to be willing to pay you, right? It's a business, right? You got to make
Otherwise, you built something that no one wants,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
So
then you spent all your money.
exactly. So I think the first principle is stop, right? When you have that idea, stop. Don't go and build something immediately. The second principle is you need to go and talk to your users. You need to find out who those users are, right? You need to build an ideal user persona. And you need to go out and actually talk to them. These are not very difficult steps, but people miss that, right? And there's an art form to that as well. So you're finding out if there's a problem. You're finding out if the problem is severe enough for someone to want to pay you for it, and then you were going to go into steps like prototyping, building MVPs, things like that. And we've got some really, really detailed information as a part of the foundations course that, obviously these steps, you can look those up online anywhere, but we have years and years of product experience. And so we're kind of bringing some of our secret sauce to that, and giving people a pretty robust roadmap to take in an idea from just that idea to, maybe the MVP.
Yeah, I think we thought about that a lot with our product, but it was different for I don't have a technical background. We made a product, a dog treat.
Okay.
So we were able to give it to dogs and, pet parents
Test
and
it, yeah.
get a test. But
Yeah.
how do you guys do that? Or what's an example of a company that would sign up for foundations, and what would their product be? Like, obviously an app, or like, is there a specific example you can give us and kind of walk us through
Yeah.
how that product gets tested? Because it's so much more complicated than just, hey, try my
Yeah.
new whatever.
Well, I think that's a really good question. And I think the easiest way to describe that process is you go from faking it to highly manual to partially automated to full product, right? So, and what I mean when I say that is faking it is you can mock up a clickable slide deck, right? If you've got a web app or even a free app like Adobe XD, you can mock up a prototype of an app, right?
Mhm.
You can actually take the frame of, so like an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 12, right? And you can start to overlay your branding, build buttons, and then you can get on a Zoom call or a call like this, or you can actually send that to somebody and then watch them and say, hey, I want you to register an account. And so they start clicking around and you watch how they interact with it, right?
Oh,
And
right.
it doesn't do anything. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's fake, right? So I've heard stories of people that built e-commerce websites and they said, hey, I want you to search for, an orange version of this product. And they go and they click that actually drops down and they select orange. They just to see, okay, how
If
are
it's
people interacting
intuitive
with the
or
product, right? Is it
yeah.
intuitive? Do you understand it? But before that even happens, like I said, you're finding out whether or not that's actually a problem, for that product. Does anybody care about that product? But once
Sure.
you get through that prototyping stage where it's just smoke and mirrors, then you do, like we're going to do what we call a concierge MVP. And what that means is, it may look automated to the customer on the front end, but we're doing it all manually. A great example of that is, oh gosh, I want to say it's Rent the Runway, but it's not. Who was the
Like
first
Stitch
person that
Fix
did
or
Stitch
something?
Fix? That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stitch Fix, she called people and said, "Hey, I want to be your personal shopper." She put together her own questions, interviewed people about their style, went out, shopped, put things on her credit card, brought them to the people, charged them for what they kept, and then went and returned the clothes herself, right? So we're talking about an online company, a software product that she was doing every single bit of it
Mhm.
manually herself. So those are a couple of ways that you can test these ideas. You can test these products. You can go from just totally faking it, smoke and mirrors prototype to, just delivering your concept manually
I love
before
that.
you invest in actually building a piece of
Yeah,
software.
and she probably doing it that manually, like the Stitch Fix founder, she
Mhm,
probably found add-ons and additional
mhm.
products along the way just by
Sure.
doing that.
Yeah, and that's part of the product journey. It's not just it's not just yeah, we say all the time that building an MVP, it's just like step one, right? MVPs they are limited in scope and they're oriented towards learning, right? An MVP needs to be delivering something of value. And once you're at the MVP stage, you need to be collecting something of value, right? So you're at the stage where you're actually selling it. It's not a prototype anymore. You're delivering value and collecting payment or money for it. But it's oriented towards learning. So you're also paying attention to what are people saying about your product? What are they asking you for? Is anybody saying like, hey, this was really cool. It would be awesome if I could do this. This is how you start to build what we as product folks call the product roadmap, right? Those ideas, they get written down, they get put in the backlog, and then we spend
Yeah.
some time sort of fleshing those things out. We say, okay, as a user, I want to be able to do this. Well, what are all the steps to be able to do this? And that's how we build our feature list, right? We build our backlog, we build our roadmap, and then we put those things in the line for development in the future. Yeah.
And now, I mean, I guess with apps and everything, it's the foundation part I really think is important. But for instance, like for us, we started the company without really doing too much planning, but we knew what we wanted to do. And I wonder, like, the mix of doing both and still being able to kind of explore and play, because I think that's part of it too. Like, you want to mess up and
Yeah.
you want to fail because you want to realize, like, okay, that didn't work. Like, we realized very quickly our packaging wasn't good, and within 2 months, we changed the packaging to much nicer looking packaging because we were selling a high-end product. So I think sometimes that, like, the structure, that, like, you love structure and I hate the structure part of it all, but I do kind of, I enjoy it because there is at least some stepping stones to get you where you need to go, and then kind of play within there. Because even with any business, we're playing every day, but there's technically, we need to make money, we need to sell products, but in between there, we have to figure out, how do we make money and how are we selling those products? And sometimes it's not as clear cut, but I think definitely for starting a business, it is.
So, I mean, I love the way that you put that, because this is a good opportunity to sort of describe or dispel some common misconceptions.
Yes.
Or a common misconception. Foundations, what we're building as foundations, is really, the earliest stage product development steps, right? So what we decided was, like, I've worked with these non-technical founders. Dave has built a SaaS product and continues to evolve it. Tons of experience, but we see a lot of these people make the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again, right? And so what we wanted to do was focus on delivering education and a framework that stopped people from making deadly mistakes.
Yeah.
Stop making the mistakes that kill your concept before it has a chance to actually thrive, right? So in a sense, what we're building with Foundations is a framework that protects you from burning your too many resources making mistakes, but also allows you to make mistakes, right? Also allows you to make mistakes that contribute to learning. Failure is not, in the startup world, as you guys are aware, failure is a data point, right? What we want to protect against is failure being critical, like failure actually killing the company, right? We want to fail because failure is that data point that we need to, like you said, like, fix the packaging. The messaging isn't connecting. This A/B test, an A/B test, like, of an ad, right? That is designed to fail.
Yeah.
A or B is going to fail, right? Like, that's the whole point. And so that's something that I think we probably need to speak to that a little bit more, but it's something that I'm pretty passionate about, is that, this is not designed to help you perfect your startup. This is designed to help protect your startup. This is designed to help you get the best chance of success, but you're going to have to go through those times when you are failing and collecting that information. And so, to your point about the structure versus no structure, is Foundations gives you, it's kind of, think about a sandbox, right? Like, the edges of the sandbox are the structure, right?
Yeah.
But inside of that, you can build whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Just don't get outside of the sandbox. Or, as I described to somebody the other day, it's kind of like if you had an employee in a company car and you said, here's the car, you can scratch it, you can dent it, but you can't destroy it, right? Like, that's the guide. Those are the guardrails, right? Like, you can do some stuff and make some mistakes, but just don't tank the whole thing. Yeah.
And I think that relates to a lot. Yeah, no, that definitely answers the question. And I think it relates to a lot too, because when I did film school, went to school for film, and I learned all the technical aspects of creating film, lighting, how to do certain things within the film, and understanding, what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And for somebody that doesn't have a technical background in that, they'll learn it, but they'll never learn it as deep to then break the rules, I guess. Because I hear all these musicians that, went to, like, all these great music schools and know the foundation so well that they can actually mush all the rules together to make their own version of something new. And I think
those are the stages of mastery of a skill, right? I mean, you go from not knowing anything to learning the rules and strict adherence to the rules, but the ultimate, like the pinnacle of that is being able to manipulate the rules, like
Mhm.
being able to bend these things to serve the creative pursuits that you have. And one of the other things that I love about working in product is that business is a little bit stilted for people. I think like business is kind of like, "Ooh, business, got to put a suit on and go to an investors meeting," right?
Yeah.
You got to do some of that, but it's an inherently creative endeavor. And when you approach it the way that we approach it, it is a creative endeavor. You are creating something new, and there are rules that you need to abide by. There are best practices that you need to know. And yeah, sometimes you do need to go out and seek investment, right? Sometimes you do need some
Sure.
extra capital to make this thing work. But it is at its heart a creative endeavor, and that's a lot of fun. That's what drew me
Yeah.
to it, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
We were talking yesterday. We did a podcast yesterday and we were talking about how it's very creative. You're always building on it and it continues to grow.
Mhm.
And it's something that sometimes you forget because you get stuck with, I got to answer all these emails. I got to do all this. I
Yeah.
got to do all that. Like all this stuff that you always have to do. But then there's the
Yep.
fun times when you get to explore and do some other stuff.
Yeah.
So like, let's say I have an idea.
Mhm.
And tomorrow I want to go into the foundation course. How long? So it's about 2 weeks, and I can kind of flush out my idea and kind of come out on the other side with an idea or
You're
with a
you're
MVP.
gonna not with an MVP, no, and that's
No.
that's
2
one thing
weeks,
we
that's
wanna
really fast.
No,
that's one thing we wanna be really clear about. What we're not trying to give you your MVP, what we're trying to give you is the tools that you need to get to the MVP.
Okay.
And that's what we
The
try to focus
permission to
on.
move forward successfully with your MVP.
Yes. Yeah, that's a
Very
great
good.
way. I love that. That's great.
Yes.
And,
You get your certificate to move along. Step
Yeah,
1.
yeah,
Take a
exactly.
step back. Stop.
And what we'll be doing, Foundations is our first product, but we've already got, our own backlog of, we need to now we'll talk about MVPs and Foundations, but we'll really get into the nitty gritty in further courses and further modules that we're going to add to this about here are all the different kinds of MVPs. There's like 4 or 5 different kinds of MVPs that you can build and deploy, depending on your technical level, depending on your skill set, and also most of all depending on what you want to learn, right? And
Mhm.
again, MVPs are oriented towards learning, so
Yeah.
how you deploy that depends on what you want to learn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I was gonna ask, how flushed out does this idea have to be? Because say
Michael
like
has a lot of
no,
ideas.
well, like my friend has an idea, and
Yeah.
he's
Friend
my
or
friend.
you?
Well, no, not me. Like Andrew.
Asking for
Andrew has a
friend,
friend,
right?
and
for a
asking
friend.
for a friend, and he wants to start a clothing company. And I
Mhm.
don't know. Like I'm talking to him. He's bouncing ideas off of me. How flushed out do you have to be to want to jump into AppThink? Because I think
Yeah.
his idea is very basic. Like I'm gonna make sweats or something.
Mhm.
So there's
Yeah.
nothing more than that. There's nothing else. So it's like, okay, is that enough, or do you need more?
I would say here's a good I'm going to give you
Probably not a good
a hedge.
example.
No, I'm gonna give you an answer where I'm hedging, and then I'm gonna give you an answer where I'm a little bit more straightforward. So
Okay.
there's not really a bad time to jump into Foundations, honestly, with whatever idea you've got. You would probably get the most out of it if you are ready to start building something, right?
Okay.
And I mean that from an internal and motivational standpoint. So if you've just got an idea, but you're just kind of knocking it around on the weekends, like sure, it would be super helpful to have. In fact, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but I actually think that these concepts apply to like, do you want to like add on to your house or like, like remodel your kitchen or like these are really useful, like just general life skills for approaching projects of any kind. So yeah, jump into Foundations whenever you get an idea. You will probably find the most value if you've got an idea, you've kicked it around,
Yeah.
you fleshed it out a little bit, but really to me the key would be I'm ready to start moving on this idea. When I'm internally and emotionally and maybe even financially ready to start, like I want to start doing the work to actually bring this thing to life, that's when you want to come to Foundations. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Shoot.
So, are you I'll start with this one. So you mentioned, I really liked what you said that you could maybe apply it to like adding onto your house or whatnot. So if you complete Foundations and get your permission to launch your product, can you apply those? Do you walk away with the tools and principles that you can like go and apply to your next potential product, like, in your own
You don't
time?
have to go through Foundations again. You take it all with you. Yeah.
Okay.
This is all stuff that comes with you.
Okay, that's super valuable. And then are you thinking about, or how are you thinking about the aspect of community?
Mhm.
I'm sure, maybe co-founders would love to talk and discuss like off
Yeah.
the cuff about what they're learning. And I think that's so important. I think that would add a lot of value, but are you adding that element to AppThink?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're looking at tools right now. Right now we're leaning towards Discord, especially with Slack's acquisition by Salesforce. It's not my favorite thing in the
What
world.
is
So
Discord?
Yeah, Aaron doesn't know.
I know I just
A lot of
learned about
gamers
how to
use it.
use Slack to the
it
full
started
extent.
with started with gamers. Discord is kind of it's Slackish.
Yeah.
It's my experience with it is fairly limited, but it is a community chat, a chat tool. You can also do like live streaming through Discord. So I know a lot of podcasters that will use it, and
Mhm.
they'll live stream their podcast and be able to interact with their audience as they're
Mhm.
going through that. So it's cool, but you can also break it into topic threads, a lot like you can with Slack. It's
Mhm.
a pretty cool tool. It's one of those that in the pandemic, as COVID broke out, it was one of those tools that saw it was primarily in the gamer space, and then it was like, whoa, all these other people are using Discord. Like what's going on with this, right? So we're looking at that right now, but we could use Slack. Salesforce is a big SaaS company, and typically there tends to be, that doesn't mean there has to be, but there tends to be some feature bloat. What I mean by that is like, okay, now Salesforce gets a hold of it, and we're going to add this feature that we use all the time, and this feature, and this feature, and this feature, and then the price is going to go up,
Yeah.
and the application is going to get clunky and slow and buggy, and it's like, I don't
Gonna
really
lose
want to.
the whole
I don't
purpose. Yeah.
don't want to do that anymore. But yes, so going back to your original question, I think the community is incredibly important. Like I said earlier, I think that being able to practice, and practice is not just getting out and actually applying, it's also bouncing ideas off people.
Yeah.
I think that's a critical step to refining an idea, to getting through these sort of like gating thresholds to the next step, right, is being able to bounce that off of people. One fear and one thing that I have to test, that we're going to have to test with AppThink, is that a lot of people are afraid to share their ideas with other people. And we tell
Because they
people
think
all the
they're gonna steal it
yeah,
or they think it's a bad product.
yeah, exactly. And we tell people all the time, like, that
Silly.
doesn't even make like the top 10 of the worries that you should have.
I
There
know.
are, there are a lot of things you should be afraid of at the beginning of your project, but like that's not one of them,
Stealing
because
ideas, I'd never think was one of them, or I
it's
never thought that. It's like, go for it. If you're gonna do it,
yeah,
if it's so easy and you're
Yeah,
gonna
so
go
much
steal
do
it,
it.
let me see how you do
yeah.
it.
So much time, so much money, so much effort. Like somebody, they're not just going to take your idea and run with it, because the activation energy is so high, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how these founders that maybe haven't done it before, though, how they process that impulse to sort of protect their idea, protect their concept. So we've built some of the video scripts and some of the written content to try and allay that fear at the outset and say, hey, that really isn't something that you need to worry about. I guess it could happen. It's highly unlikely. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the whole program sounds really interesting. I'm excited to follow along as you
Mhm.
guys launch in the new
Yeah.
year. I want to wrap up with our um, main question, which is your call
Sure.
me crazy story. So, Trevor, what have you done in your business career that you were called crazy for, and you went ahead and did it anyway?
Starting a business.
Usually it's that, but yeah, you can
Look,
elaborate on
yeah,
that.
I'm gonna elaborate on it, and I'm not probably not gonna give you like the really juicy story that maybe some people will give you, but I will say this: there is no overstating the difficulty and the challenge. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's financially difficult. There's no way to overstate how hard it is to start a business and get out and do it. And what was crazy for me is that I did it on a lark. Like I told you, I was sitting around the house. I had all these skills and all this information, but someone was like, "You should try your hand at consulting," and I was like, "Yep, cool, done." And thankfully, my buddy was a lawyer. I got an LLC set up really fast. Secured my name, got my domain online, and I was off to the races in like a couple
Yeah.
of weeks. And I was calling people and like, "Let me work for you. Let me work for you." Doing all this work. And it was a trash fire. No one wanted to work with me, right? I mean, but I just jumped in and did it. And then when I finally left my full time job to do this full time, that was a big leap. That was a really big leap, and I'm very fortunate that I have a extremely supportive wife, who said, "Yeah, I want you to go do this. I can tell how much you enjoy doing this and how passionate you are and how energized you are by doing this kind of work, and so I want you to go do it." But I think I would tell people like, yeah, there are plenty of crazy things. I thought was going to be sued before, like all sorts of really fun stories. But I guess at the highest level, like it's just really, really, really hard to start a business. And so all of you out there that are doing that are taking the steps, that do come to AppThink and want to go through foundations, like I hope that what people get from what we do, because there's so many gurus online, there's so many people that are selling courses online and selling all this stuff. We don't just want to take your money. We got to get paid at the end of the day. But
Mhm.
Dave and I are extremely passionate about the impact that people that start businesses in their communities, whether they go on to be like nationwide releases or worldwide releases or just in your little area, we think that small businesses and founders are really the standard bearers of like culture in our society, right? Like you guys are the people that say like, this is what we stand for, this is what our culture looks like, what we care about. It's just so critical to have people that are willing to do that crazy hard work. And so one of the things just culturally that I want to come through with AppThink is just how much we love our founders and how much we want to support them and give them the best chance of success. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
love
group
it.
to be a part of.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor, thank you so much for joining the podcast. AppThink coming out in January.
Yeah, we're looking at late January, early
Okay.
February. Yeah, we're
Okay.
probably going to run some tests too. So, a couple of things I wanted to, if you don't mind, just real
Go
quick.
for it. Yeah.
Got a website. It's appthink.io because
Okay.
.io is a heck of a lot cheaper than buying a two-syllable.com right now.
Yes, it is.
Unless you want to pay $30,000 for a name. So appthink.io, we've got a blog. We're posting once a week, and we're covering a lot of this material. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. We've also got an ebook, and we're calling it Digital Product Foundations. Probably not the catchiest name, but it's doing the job. You can sign up and get that for free. There's nothing attached to that. You can just download the book. But if you do that, you're going to get on a mailing list, and we'll be in touch in probably middle of January because we're also going to be testing this a little bit.
Cool.
So there's probably going to be 3, 4, 5 people that we want to just like go through it for free and just say, what did you think about this? Was this valuable? We need to take our own medicine and test our own product. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. We'll put everything in the description. Everybody can go check it out. Link to the site. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's really good to meet you guys, and best of luck with the rest of the podcast and with y'all's product.
Yeah, thanks.
You too. Thank
See ya.
you.
Talk to you soon.